Well, good day to you. It is February the 2nd, 2024. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And I just want to say this in this video, that February 2nd is pretty cool for two reasons. One, it's Groundhog Day. Now, if you don't know anything about Groundhog Day, there is a really incredibly funny and entertaining movie entitled Groundhog Day with one of my favorite comedic actors, Bill Murray. And he is a weatherman in Pennsylvania who travels to this little town in Pennsylvania called Punxsutawney, where they celebrate Groundhog Day every year on February 2nd. And like I said, but what makes this movie so incredibly entertaining and really thought-provoking in a way is his character starts off as this self-centered jerk. And through the course of living the same day over and over and over again, Groundhog Day, in this little town where it's always cloudy and it's always kind of murky because it's the wintertime, he eventually starts to transform into really what he should be. He starts to think about other people, starts to care about other people. He starts to see the change in himself. Other people start to respond to that. And at the end of the movie, he's really a totally transformed person. So to me, it's an incredibly entertaining movie in and of itself, very funny with a lot of improvisation, I'm sure, from Bill Murray. But it's also, I think, very thought-provoking because it's a satire on reincarnation, which is what we talk about all the time on this channel, about reincarnation. But anyway, the other cool thing about today is February 2nd, 2024 is my 5th anniversary of doing these videos. And I want to thank everyone who has listened to these videos, whether it's 1 or 2 times and that's it, to more than that, to taking time out of their day to comment, let me know what they think, to asking questions or sending me emails. Because if it wasn't for every one of you, I would not have been putting up more videos. My original intention of doing these videos back 5 years ago was just to put up a handful of them talking about my own personal experiences with Maitreya, and that's it. And I started doing that, and it took about a few weeks for me to come up with the material to talk about my own experiences with Maitreya and those kind of things. And I remember what kind of started it, and it started to snowball at this point. It came with a comment that somebody gave me, which wasn't very flattering. If I remember correctly, it was something to the fact of, "You're full of crap," and I'm using the politically correct version of that, right? But I thought to myself, I was like, well, I mean, they didn't agree with what I had to say, but somebody's listening. You know, I'm not just talking to dead air here. So I put up another video, and then perhaps somebody said another comment that wasn't very flattering. I was like, well, at least they listened to that video. And then I started putting up more and more videos talking about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom in some way. And I remember a few weeks after I started, somebody asked me a question. Can't remember what the question is, doesn't really matter. But I was going to reply to his comment, but then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just record a video of me trying to answer his question. And it gave me something to say for this next video. And then I put that video up, and perhaps they asked another question or somebody else asked a question. And then as time went on, more and more videos were put up for me just trying to answer people's questions. So I really do appreciate you guys who do take the time out of your day to comment and ask questions. But like I said, even if you just listen to a video or two before, I really do appreciate you guys too. I love you guys. I want to thank you very much for doing that. And as time went on, and I started putting these videos up, like I said, it's transformed into something greater than I possibly could have imagined at the time. Because I've come in contact with, I haven't met you guys physically, but I've come in contact with people from all over the world. People who agree with this information, people who disagree with this information. And my purpose for doing these videos, for those of us who don't know, is not to try to convince you of anything, not to try to get you to agree with what I have to say. It's just to tell you about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, and then leave it to you to do whatever you want to do with it. But Benjamin Creme, who is really the initiator of this information, at the beginning of every one of his lectures, he always said something to this effect. He said he had the easiest job in the world because he wasn't there to try to convince you that he was right, that to believe what he believed. But he did say that, he goes, at the very least, if you are left with a little bit of hope after hearing this message, he would be completely satisfied. And I have to say it's the same thing. Hopefully these, whether you believe it at 100% of what I'm saying or at 0%. If you're left with a little bit of hope, I'm in the same boat as Benjamin Creme. I would be completely satisfied with putting these videos up if it just gave people a little bit of hope. Now, I believe at 100% what I'm saying is true. I've met Maitreya many times, learned, and applied what he's tried to teach me, and it's changed my life. And as they say, a tree is known by its fruit, right? That's in the Bible for those of us who are very religious, or even not very religious. I mean, I've heard that saying before too, right? A tree is known by its fruit. Jesus said it talking about, really, you don't have to guess at whether something is true or not. Just look at what comes out of that truth, right? If it's, corn, it's going to come out as corn. Whatever seed you plant, that's what you're going to get, kind of deal, right? And it's the same thing with a teacher, and I've been lucky enough to have met Maitreya in my own life before the whole world knows him. And I've applied the little that he said to me, I've applied it to my life, and it's changed my life. So a tree is known by its fruit, right? I cannot wait for the time when the whole world starts to apply what he's saying. It's going to start with his basic teaching, which he says, without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no future. And truth be told, 5 years ago today, if you had asked Gary at that time, what would the world be like 5 years from now or today, right? I would have described it much differently than what we're living in today, right? We've gone through a lot of crap over the last 5 years, from a pandemic to here in the United States to an insurrection, the political divisions, the economic divisions are even getting worse. The environment has not been even, we talk about fixing the environment, but nothing really has been done about it, right? So at the very least, humanity is either stuck where it was 5 years ago, or some could even make the case that we're worse off than we were 5 years ago, right? So looking at this next 5 years, I'm hoping, again, that we will be living in a totally different world for the better, that humanity will start to try the principle of sharing, will start to listen to what Maitreya has to say, take his advice, apply it, and see that it does change things for the better. That just the principle of sharing in and of itself will start to bring about goodwill amongst the nations, start to bring about trust amongst the nations. I offer this up as evidence for those who are just hearing this for the first time, but the Marshall Plan, which happened right after World War II, is a good example of the principle of sharing. The nations that participated in it were once at war with one another. Since then, none of them have attacked one another. So it's historical evidence that what Maitreya is saying is true, but we won't know the truth of that statement until we at least try it. Now, over the next 5 years, I'm sure we're going to go through some difficulties as a humanity, but the one thing that gives me the greatest amount of hope when hearing this information, as great as it is for me to have met Maitreya, know that he's real, know that he is who Benjamin Creme says he is, to know that he will be teaching the world and helping humanity in a way that we can't possibly imagine. As inspiring as that is, the most hopeful and inspiring part of this story for me personally is what Maitreya himself says is true. That within the heart of every single one of us, without exception, is the longing for unity, the longing for peace, the hope for humanity and those kind of things, the longing for oneness. And if that is true, then it's only a matter of time before we work these problems out, Hopefully under the inspiration of Maitreya over the next 5 years, but we will be working toward it in some way, whether we believe it to be true, whether we think it's true, whether we see any evidence of that happening over the next 5 years, I don't know. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. But at some point, we will have to work it out, because that's the truth of who we are. We are one family. And that's, to me, is the most inspiring thing about this. I love you guys. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I look forward to putting up videos for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years if that's the case. You guys have a great day. I'll talk to you real soon. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.